Okay, so yeah, well let's get into it. So I see you're a 252 hero. That's nice. Tell me a little bit about like what's your, how do you see the game? What kind of player are you? Introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, I first touched the game, I think in 2006. I think I was like an eighth grader, sixth grader at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of played on and off, um, and then heard about Reboot, but never actually started it until like towards the end of Ignition, so kind of January-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing kind of casually. Um, my job's pretty busy, so maybe on the weekdays I'd be able to play 1 to 2 hours. On the weekends, maybe a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of progressing, not in a rush to do anything, just kind of taking it at my own pace.
Cool. And what made you try out Hero and kind of like settle on that one?
So I did Hero because it was my first act. Like I made a Crusader way back
Mm-hmm.
when there was only 4 classes. So I just figured I liked the two-hand swords, and I played it. And the bossing's pretty fun. The mobbing's okay, but I enjoy it. I like carrying a big axe. I wish it was the two-handed sword, but it's a big axe.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same. Like back when I was playing DA, people were like, "Oh, why are you playing DA? It just got really nerfed." And I was like, "Well, I started with it, and I don't really have any like huge complaints, and everything is like okay. So I don't feel like I need to keep looking. Like this one is, yeah. There's not any like huge problems. Everything seems okay. So it's not like you're in love with it, but you don't hate anything bad enough to like keep looking, I guess."
Yeah, I like it enough to keep playing it. It's enjoyable,
Okay, that's cool.
and the burst is fun.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that it's went from a 4 minute to a 2 minute, it's much more reliable now. It used to be, I don't know if you played during that time, but like it used to. I guess with Destiny it changed, so you may have missed that.
Yeah,
But
I
like,
heard it was a 4 minute.
yeah, instinctual combo was on a 4 minute, so it would last longer, of course. But yeah, you'd have like a really big burst and then like a tiny burst in comparison. That'd be really
Yeah.
weird, and then you have to, with Oz rings and synchronizing. It's a lot cleaner now. Every single burst now is a little bit more setup, but you're getting more consistent damage out of it. Cool. So yeah, I don't know how familiar you are. You're familiar enough to have commented on the YouTube video, of course. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen like a lot of sessions already. If there are
I've seen
some,
quite a few actually. Yeah.
that's cool. And when it comes to like the live stream, are you familiar with? Well, you've seen the commands, of course, as well through the sessions, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with most of the or not most of them, but the ones I usually use are like the familiar ones, the progression ones. Um, those are the big ones.
Okay. And do you have, like, going into this, do you feel like there are some more basic, more fundamental stuff? It sounds weird to say basics, like any dumb, like, do you have any things where you think these are dumb questions that you just want to get out of the way so that we can make sure that that's addressed so we don't, like, forget about those?
The first one is so I'd kind of ignored Commerci for quite a while because I heard about like the what they did. I'm not even sure exactly what happened, but I just heard it was not as good as it was before. So I didn't do it at all, and I just barely started doing it again. But I'm not even sure if it's something worth my time.
Right. Yeah. I imagine if you aren't playing for a long time, you're not playing all the time. You can just hear things here and there, and then you don't even know what Commerci was really about, and you just hear people saying that it's bad. So I guess not do it. But yeah, context and nuance often get lost in those conversations.
Yeah.
What I'll say is that basically this game has got a lot of RNG in it, right? Like in different layers, in layers of getting the equips and layers of upgrading the equips, multiple types of RNG in the equips, right? So there's a lot of stuff where you just kind of have to wait and see what you get. Now, because there are so many layers, you can definitely get lucky in some regards and unlucky in other regards, and then that kind of tells you on where you push more and where you push less, essentially, like where you prioritize harder, when you go for a little bit more bang for your buck, and where you just kind of just like hold off a little bit more and just kind of see where it goes, or you wait until you have way more money and then you can kind of brute force your way through that. Commerci is one of those things where you're familiar with the concept of a pity system, right?
Not really.
So let's say that if you kill a boss,
yeah.
like let's say if you kill a boss, every single time you kill it, you get 1 coin, and there's like a 1% chance that you actually get a weapon. But also it allows you, if you have like 50 coins, that you can buy the weapon with the 50 coins. So this way, there's like a pity system that if you do get unlucky for 50 times in a row and you don't get the thing, you can still have it guaranteed after X amount of runs. That's essentially, every single coin system like that is essentially kind of like a pity system. Although in MapleStory, those things seem to usually move kind of parallel from each other. They don't seem to like overlap. For example, in Gollux, you've got the coins, but you can only buy two. There's two equips that you cannot get as drops, so you have to buy them with coins, right? And then the other ones you can get as drops. So essentially, the pity system exists there, kind of, but only if by the time you can afford your third drop, you haven't gotten your first one yet, kind of situation. When it comes to Commerci, all of the accessories, they cannot drop, but the coins drop, or the dineros in this case, in a large extent, so that you can guaranteed buy them as long as you put in enough time. Now, all the alternatives to the Commerci accessories are basically either way worse in terms of the boss accessory stuff, or they're way better, which also means way harder to get to and more RNG and less likely to happen. Some people may have already been established in the game. They might have access to like boss parties really early, maybe even get carried, and more likely get carried by people who already have the drops, and then they can get top priority in the drops, and as a result they can kind of skip the whole Commerci thing because it's not going to be there forever anyway. Definitely not for them, because they're going to be jumping through equip progression faster. And the main thing that so people were already kind of doing that, people who didn't like the content and having to do the voyages over and over again. It's very repetitive. I understand why it's not for most people. So one of the things they changed is that one of the major things that we did in Commerci is transposing items, which would make the pieces basically even stronger than their base self and get even closer to what their next what the next alternatives would be, essentially. So transposing allowed you to transfer a bunch of stats from existing items to the Commerci items. And in this case, the items that you transposed from could be could have flame advantage, so you could have a higher quality flame, and that you could transpose into a Sweetwater piece, which does not have flame advantage. So you can get a higher flame than was actually possible if you flame the item by itself. Now, also when you're transposing, you also get some bonus stats if you transpose at the right amount of stars, which we mathed out that 16 is the opportune spot to transpose over, and you basically get the extra bonus stats of 15 to 16 imprinted on the item, but the item goes down to 15 because 1 star is consumed. So you're essentially getting yourself an extra small star with extra weapon attack and extra stat, which is nice. But the third thing...
is that still going on now?
Yeah, so that second thing is also still there, but the third thing that's actually the main thing that people tend to overlook, or I'm not saying you're overlooking this, but nobody's mentioning this to you, so you don't even know that that's the main thing. The main thing is because there's a pity system, you are guaranteed backups eventually. So you can go for high star force, you can go past 17, you can go up to 19, 20, 21, even 22, as long as you're doing it enough, guaranteed. Whereas the alternatives, yeah, maybe you can get your foot in the door, maybe you can get that one drop eventually, but then getting backups and everything can be a huge hassle. So therefore, I would say definitely not that transposing is off the board. Is it something that you can not necessarily do if you absolutely hate it? Probably. But is it something that, if you're diligent, if you're patient, and you do that, you will be guaranteed an upgrade, and you will, not be as invested in needing an RNG drop, which you just have no control over? Yes, and that's probably, I think, a healthier way if you're a more patient, more casual player, which I think you are.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it takes too long, maybe like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, the problem is like when you're...
day.
So if you're transposing, every transpose attempt costs 10 dineros and is like 5% chance of working or something, so that can cost several hundred dineros. And then the pendant costs 400. So if you need backups for pendants, it can start raking in the thousands like pretty quickly. If you're aiming for, if you're aiming for 19 stars, you can probably get that done with like a total of like 1500 dineros. You can do like two transpose, 2 pieces, 2 backups. That's pretty doable. But if you're trying to go for 21, 22, but that'll depend on how lucky you are with the other drops, right? Like where everything lands. But if anything, the amount of pity systems, especially once you go past Gollux, is pretty much non-existent. So I would say capitalize on that existing as early when you can, so that when those systems are gone, you don't have everything being completely random, but you have some things that at least you can count on, like I'm doing this daily or a few times a week, and then I know in a month's time I'll be able to afford 4 backups, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't even see like the upgrade face or the Dawn even being in my view for many months. So I should be fine doing Commerci then. Yeah,
it depends on your access to parties. I guess we could talk about that a little bit. I mean, if you feel like Commerci is...
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know if it was worth doing, and it does sound like it's pretty worth.
Yeah. I guess bossing... so how do you see your Or did you have any other questions that you want to get out of the way? You can.
That was the big one.
That was a big one. Okay. In terms of your progress, because you say you're taking it step at a time, it's really hard to say like, oh, I definitely want to be able to reach this, but is there something that you like have seen, or something that you have like a little bit of a dream about, like this would be really cool if I could do that one day?
I mean, obviously Black Mage at some point, but I'm not obviously in a rush to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's been fun slowly progressing through the bosses. So just step by step progressing to Black Mage would be great. Yeah, I know that's far off.
And would you say you use the bosses as kind of a measuring stick to see if you're progressing through the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So in combination with that, I guess are you familiar with the dailies command? Because that like kind of tracks the.
Let me see. I don't think I've actually used it before. No.
Okay. It tracks pretty heavily with the progression grid, so if you use that one, it's kind of implied. But you'd see in the progression grid on the bottom, it's got like a few bosses there, right? Like beginning, mid, and end of the stage, and that's basically an excerpt of the dailies command, where it kind of like takes the main milestones from this. This has also got like links to the wiki so you can get more details and stuff. But this in general has kind of like a color coding of which dailies do I think are worth your time around some levels and which ones I don't think are worth your time. Of course, it's not an ironclad rule like you can't do these and you have to do these, but I would say like worth looking into, or totally fine if you're ignoring those kind of things. And I think in general it can also help if you're like, okay, I don't know what the next boss is. The boss guide, or like the guide chapter of boss, has gotten a lot better, right? Where you can see what is the next boss on the horizon. It's pretty good, but that's, I mean, I was first, okay? I did this first, and then the guide came with a better ranking of their stuff. But basically, you can see like what is the next boss in order of what you can do with your damage and level of difficulty and that kind of stuff. So I guess if you were to look at that, which things have you like soloed so far? Which things have you done in a party?
So I haven't done any party bossing yet. I've soloed up to Lomian, and I'm starting to practice like Lucid. And that's really, I mean, I get a Catchy as well. I don't know how Catchy's ranked so high. That one's so easy. And then CPAP, I just can't kill that one yet.
Yeah.
Everyone tells me just wait till you can burst it down and then forget Max.
Yeah. I mean, they're rather close. Catchy is more, it can be very annoying. If you have good knock resistance and that kind of stuff, if you have good burst, you could just bind a burst one, wait for your burst to come back, bind a burst the other, you're good, or even just burst. Yeah. It's just that a Catchy can be very, very annoying for classes who aren't as bursty and have more DPM. Because he has like, I don't know if you've been in the boss fight for a little bit longer sometimes, but he's got like this stage where he just summons a whole bunch of dudes, and then every one of them slows you, and then the next one slows you, and the next one slows you, and you're just like slogging along, and then you build stacks, and then there's like some screen doors and a lotus flower, and then you're just dead, and yeah, it's a whole bunch of weird stuff that comes, kind of similar to Chaos Papulatus, but like annoying in a different way. Yeah, I would say CPAP is definitely, I mean, we look at your stuff, it's either like 252, and as long as your gear isn't abhorrent, we should definitely be able to kill that as well with some practice. For CPAP, I have a video where I kind of break down the boss fight in terms of, positioning, which attacks to look out for, where you can stand, where you cannot stand, that kind of thing. It definitely does get a lot more satisfying if you just nuke his ass. That takes a whole lot of frustration out of it, but you can start running it pretty quickly. I would say mostly for the boss crystal at this point, but if you want to do the transposing thing, like the Papulatus mark, that's where that comes from, and it's a very low drop rate, so the sooner you start, hopefully that means also the sooner you'll get it. But yeah, it's a boss that definitely takes some practice. You get a pretty low cooldown iframe, so you'll probably get more and more into the bosses now, where you can't really just like tap the World Reaver whenever you want to do some damage, but it's better to hold on to it in case of situations where you might otherwise die, right? So Catchy was fine, and CPAP was. Have you tried CPAP so far? You may have accidentally muted yourself a minute ago. Uh-oh. Mute button on the mic. Oh, I hear something.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I tried. I think CPAP a while ago. I
Mhm.
got him down to like 10%.
And then you heal back up?
I think the first bar. The first bar.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's been a while, so because I remember just getting frustrated.
For sure. There is, it's only after the current the coming update, so it's after Savior, but they are redoing a lot of the bossing patterns, and it's mainly, from what I saw, it's probably going to be CPAP and mainly HMAG that are going to be made a whole lot easier. So if you have like up and coming bossing mules, or you want to get some tyrant stuff on other characters, that's going to be a whole lot easier. And from a weekly perspective, like way fewer things, like the purple clocks, the horizontal beam thing, that's no longer going to one-shot you in CPAP. So that'll take a whole lot of difficulty off the table in terms of like blocking lasers and that kind of thing.
Oh, good.
If you haven't tried it a long time ago, you might already be a lot stronger now as well than you think you are. And it might be a whole lot easier. It's good to every now and then just give it another check and just to see where you're at, because I like bossing as well for that case. It's just being able to do it one time, and then if you keep on doing it, it's very good at helping you feel your progression and actually getting stronger. If maybe you're not, if you're working on a big project or you need a lot of money for the next upgrade, sometimes it doesn't really feel like you're really progressing that much anymore, but there's always some boss in the game somewhere where you can actually feel your progress and be like, oh, I remember even just like a month ago that took way longer than now. And that could be a good check.
I'm feeling that with Lomian.
Mm-hmm.
I used to take, it was like quite a bit of focus, but now I just kind of go in there, maybe die once or twice, and then they're dead.
Yeah, and then deaths don't even phase you anymore because you have plenty of lives left, and it's impossible for there to be enough situations left where you're actually gonna maybe die out. Whereas in the beginning, every death is like, oh, that's another one, and then because of that, you get in your own head, and then maybe it does get worse, and then that experience does a whole lot for you there. And then it's also so great that translates to other characters. If ever another character gets to that point, you can immediately start cashing in on that position, like the positioning. You can do way better immediately because you know all the timings and everything. So it's always a good investment. Yeah. Okay. So if you look purely level-wise, right, like in the progression grid, you'd be looking at like trying to set up some hard Lucid parties. So in that sense, because of hyperburn, people have been like shoved through the progression, right?
Yeah, this was my hyperburn character. Yeah. I think I'd only got him to like 237 at that point, and then just manually leveled him after that. Okay. So he's a little ahead, I guess.
Yeah, it might be a little bit out of balance, but you said you did check the progression grid. Is there anything there that you had questions on like what is where do I go with this specific topic, like any of the sources of damage? Does ID make sense to you? Does damage percent, crit rate, does all of that kind of track for you?
Yeah, I guess the one question I was going to ask for the dailies, Helix, I'm still having trouble with him. It's just kind of, it's the one boss you don't get that much practice with. You either go in and kill it, and then you can't even practice your mistakes afterwards. So I've been finding that difficult to kind of get my first clear on my own.
Okay. And so what do you find is mostly what kills you? There's a lot that can, of course, but
I think it's like there's a delay in the breath.
Yeah, so the pink breath in the middle, like first phase?
Yeah, that's what always ends up killing me.
Okay. Yeah, and it is because the hitbox is way bigger than what it looks like. It used to be exactly like the size what it is now. Now it's slightly behind and in front all the way until the wall, basically. So you just have to what I use as my hero is use the rush skill and just rush like to the other side, basically, because it gets you far enough, and just rush behind and make sure you got your attack speed up, green pot, that kind of stuff, and just instant rush behind. And just always be very, very clearly looking at the eyes. I don't know how much, do you feel like the damage is maybe covering up a lot of your screen, or are you able to see the animations of the boss well enough?
I can see the eyes, at least. Maybe not the rest of it, but the eyes is what I'm looking at.
Well, the reason I'm asking, and might be for other bosses as well in the future, are you familiar with like the damage skin settings that you can fiddle around with a little bit?
I've played with them, but I don't know which one's good for bossing per se.
So for visibility, one is that you have just like the regular skill visibility, right? And then you also have the damage skin options. So skill visibility is usually pretty much all the way off, right? So you can see what's going on. And then for damage, I like the mini basic numbers. I pretty much always put it on medium, right? So just less room is taken up. But mini basic I think is mainly good if you also have a unit damage skin, because then it's also like a narrow line. If you don't have that, then you can consider mini blade effects. What mini blade does is it puts all of the damage basically as if you have one line of damage, and it puts it all on that same line, so it doesn't vertically fill up your entire map. For some other bosses that might be pretty useful. Yeah, it looks like your damage is like spazzing out because it's refreshing like at 6 to 8 to 10 times the rate, right? But that could help you with visibility. That is also one of the tips for CPAP, because there's a phase where you get a timer over your head, and Papulatus gets a timer over his head, and if you have your damage in anything else than blade, it covers that as long as you keep attacking, and then you can actually see the timer on Papulatus' head, so you have, you know, break your DPS, stop attacking to be able to see what's actually going on. So it might help you in some situations like that.
So for CPAP, do the blade?
Yeah, I would put it to blade, yeah, just to get that extra visibility. After a while, I will say, I'll say this with like 90% certainty, is that you pretty much always get either double or half of what Pap gets immediately, pretty much. So if you have a small number, get a 2x. If you have a big number, get a divide by 2. It's almost always that if you looted 2x immediately, that you're good. But one of the things you can do, for example, is you can use your Hero's Will skill right before you're about to get stunned or sealed, and it just won't go off. Or you can use your iframe and just ignore that effect and keep going. And as you get better, and you don't really use your iframe for anything else, you'll have it available for that, and then you don't even have to worry about the 2x and the divide by 2. Or if you're very strong and you blow up the first phase before, before any of the timer runs out, that effect just disappears. So that's also cool. Also, the thing with the purple vertical clocks, those are part of the phase 1 of Papulatus. So if you're standing in one of those and he's dying and transitioning, you can just keep standing in those. Like, they'll hit you, but they won't do any damage because the person that did that damage to you is gone. However, those clocks on the side, that's like a map effect, and that's done by that's like an obstacle by the map, so that keeps going and that can still kill you. But if it's a summon from the boss and that phase of the boss dies, then that damage of the boss also goes away.
Gotcha.
But yeah, these are all like things I guess that you just have to know, or you have to accidentally discover in bossing. Oh yeah, so we're talking about Helix. Yeah, so I definitely say use the rush skill and just be a little bit more patient in that. Just be like 1 hit, 2 hit. As soon as you see the eyes do anything, just rush through. So things like that. I like to put the sword, the Burning Soul Blade, on the left side, because I like to fight Helix on the bottom right side, because I like to fight him in the second phase on the top left. So and then it's easier to just like jump down, kill the one potato underneath you, and go back up, and you don't have to walk all the way to the other side of the map. Because what you really want to avoid, especially during phase 2, is crossing the eyes.
Yeah, I did that, and then I'm just walking the wrong direction after that.
Wrong direction, you get that bomb on you, right? And then you take 99% damage from that. Good luck surviving that. If there was a timer on that was reliable, that would be, outplayable, but there isn't. Sometimes it blows up after 1 second, sometimes after 10, so good luck iframing that. So it's really all about like that one portal that you see on the top left. If you stay just behind that, then that explosion of the eyes and stuff won't hit you. So if you see a hand, you can either go down to kill a potato, or jump up, or use your iframe, one of those 3 options. If you're totally panicking, you can also jump off of the left of the platform, and then you just have to make your way back up. But you just have to respond quickly to those things. So it'll come down to just getting a feel for it and not attacking too long in a row. Only be attacking a long time in a row when you're bursting. If you're throwing out your instinctual combo during the phase 2, remember your debuffs. The other thing with Helix is that as long as you don't have one of those purple stacks on your head from one of the potatoes, we call them potatoes, right? The little guys floating to the middle. Then you can also always just go out of the portal on the left side and just kind of wait for your cooldowns to come back.
Okay.
If you're ever panicking or near tilting, or you're like, I just want to make sure I get that clear. Like, I'm not trying to, break any land speed records here. I just want to get good coins and get a chance. Then that might be a way to kind of like, a little bit cheese it. And then,
Gotcha. So stand like behind the the portal.
Behind a portal on the top left. Yeah, as long as you're behind the portal, then the explosion won't hit you. Other stuff will hit you, but not, you know, the inversion and all of that stuff. And if you stand all the way on the left side of the platform, then the hand won't come up either. But I think for you, most of your attacks will be out of range at that point, so that's not super useful for you. But if you're a more ranged character,
the hand doesn't come up when you do that?
Yeah, if you stand all the way on the edge of the platform, the hand basically can't reach you there. And then you can just stand there and snipe. So some ranged classes, like my Marksman, just, you know, put some summon on the bottom and then just stand there and just, like, easily snipe. And he's just, just looking at you. Some explosions hit you, but it's like, you know, a fifth of your damage at the most, usually like 10%, so you're just chilling.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, my hero is pretty strong, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. But I usually, just hold the iframe. In case I'm slow, you tap the iframe. Sometimes you still see the damage pop up, but you won't get hit. Otherwise, just up jump over it, and then that's usually fine. You have a pretty big, you know how to use the up jump, right? With the macro, yeah.
With the macros? What's
usually
macro?
I do it with a macro, so that you have it on a macro key, like the up jump itself.
I had it on my ult, yeah.
Yeah, and then it just, you just jump up. I guess if you do it very, very quickly, you might land back into the hand, so don't do it like super duper fast, but, you know, you'll die once to it and then feel where it needs to be. But yeah, it used to have up to 6 entries a day in Helix with keys and everything, but now you don't have practice mode and 1 entry, so totally understandable that it's a bit stressful when you're in there. And if some people are looking at your level, you're like, oh, you can't do it yet, but then, you know, again, if you're a more casual player and you just burned your way up there, and then it's very possible to get to a certain level without every stat, like in the progression grid, like every stat tracking exactly your level. So some things will be a bit more of a challenge than others. And Helix is definitely a little bit of a character, a little bit of a wonky boss. So totally understandable.
Yeah, I feel like if I had a practice mode, it might be a little easier, just because.
For sure, yeah. Or 2 or 3 entries a day already would make a huge difference. Yeah. You wouldn't have all of your eggs in one basket that one run, because that stress also adds to sometimes making mistakes that you otherwise wouldn't. And tilting is a very, very real thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I've already died twice, so no.
Yeah, this is over. Yeah, it's all over. Yeah, the confidence down the drain.
Yeah.
Okay, usually I try to, when it comes to like the equips and everything, try to circle back to those last to make sure that we have a good understanding, or that I can make sure that that you have a good understanding of all the systems and everything below that, so that we are building like the equip progression on the correct understanding of all of the systems, basically. So I'll just go through the screenshots. I'll start from the bottom, and then, you know, we could talk about anything and everything, and as soon as you feel like everything's adequately answered, we can move on to the next thing. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. So let's see here. We have the V matrix. Do you already have anything in mind for the V matrix? Any questions? I'll just look at levels and...
Not really. I was just told to max BSB and then max my nodes, and that should be, and holy symbol, and that's kind of just been what I've been doing.
Yeah, also was useful. You got that drop and that EXP. Very, very nice. Are you in... Do you use any other resources for your MapleStory stuff? Like people in guilds, discords, anything else?
Mainly my guild.
Okay, you got some heroes in there who know what's up?
Yeah, and the hero discourse as well, too.
Hero Discord, yeah. Yeah, but apparently everyone is in there. It's got like fucking 4,000 members.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see Weapon Aura there, for example. It's probably also pretty good to level up. It's one of the main skills that gains a lot of uptime as it levels up. So the stats on it, like the extra damage from the Aura Blast is not that big of a deal, but it's like the uptime, it's the IED and the final damage on it that become more reliable. So that's a pretty useful one. I don't know exactly where it is in the order of leveling stuff. And of course, because you're very burst heavy, the instinctual combo leveling will also be a good benefit. But there's so much room to grow yet, right? Like you can already do all of these things, and it's like, oh, but my instinctual combo is only level 9, and Goddess Blessing is only level 6, and you've got so many more things that you can level up. So there's still a lot of growth potential. But in general, it looks pretty good.
I'm just getting to the point where I'm getting more nodes, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a rough start when it comes to nodes for sure. Kind of related to this, but in general, usually when you start passing the 250s, that's around the time when you want to start looking for having pretty distinct, or at least think about distinct setups when it comes to mobbing and bossing. To which extent do you feel like, have you come across that, or are you thinking about that?
For my V matrix specifically?
That's one of them, but it'd be like hyperstat, Legion setup, which, you know, maybe sometimes hyper skills, V matrix. Okay. Yeah, because for V matrix, I think you would probably. Would you say that this is like just your standard setup, and then this is kind of what does everything?
Yeah, like if I'm bossing, I just switch the Air to Nova.
And with the shower probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I never got used to rope lift because I was already, or I was rope lifting and then I just switched it out with the up jump. But it kind of depends on, you know, boss rotation. Some boss rotations are perfect with the rope lift, so you know why mess with that? I guess most bosses don't use rope lift. I think the only one where you can kind of want to use it is maybe Lucid. So that could be one to switch out as well. I didn't check, but do you have decent sharp eyes on your gloves? Is that why you don't have it in?
I have it on my gloves. Yeah.
Okay, and that makes total sense. So eventually you'll get it, so then you can switch it out. Do you find yourself using the blitz shield quite a bit? I guess for mobbing it's nice, right? Extra AoE.
I've been using it for mobbing. That's why I have the rope lift on there.
Yep. Okay. Because I know that what's it called? Fucking. I am totally brain farting right now. The paladin skill, the decent skill. Decent combat orders, thank you, brain. Old man brain moment. Decent combat orders is very nice for you because it increases the final damage per orb in your 4th job. So
I think I have that in my boots.
Oh well, there you go. Okay, that explains. We'll talk about. We'll talk about potentials. You got decent advanced blessing on your hat as well. Is that also why it's there? Or?
No.
Okay, no, that's there for a reason. That's there for a good reason. That was a test. Okay, you passed. Good job. Yeah, but yeah, you got plenty of stuff that you can go into. If there's a boss that has like a lot of annoying knockback and Cry Valhalla is not enough, then Impenetrable Skill can come in there. Of course, the True Arachnid Reflection is also a very good skill. It's a lot of big damage. Even at the end game, like it does a decent enough chunk of your burst to be part of that. You know, if you're more like min-maxing on the bossing, the Holy Symbol, of course, can come out, you know, in the beginning, and then you can always switch back into it. You know, switch it for like a boost node or something to activate it, and then the next boss switch it out again, something like that. But yeah, you've got plenty of room to grow here, but as long as you're familiar with like where to get the information, the order in general of doing everything, then I don't see any like huge glaring problems with anything here. So just a little bit of context, I guess, with stuff. Sound good?
Yep.
The one skill I see that you're missing, depending on how far you're gonna go, Urda's Will is also a nice one to keep up with and to like keep leveling as you get it. Because that basically.
What does that one do?
So you have your regular Hero's Will skill, right? Which basically it cleanses some of your hard CCs that you can get, crowd controls, and it can also make you immune for hard CCs for a while. So you can also, for some things, use it preemptively. So what I was talking about before with CPAP, you can make it so that if your timer were to run out and you can't get out of the way because of the rifts on the ground or something, and you're about to get sealed because of the timer difference, if you press that skill ahead of time, you just won't get sealed, and you can just keep attacking like nothing's going on. But they have very long cooldowns. They have like a 5 or 6 minute cooldown. So if you level this one up, you get access to a second one, which for a lot of the higher level bosses becomes very useful just because of the high cooldown on it. Yeah. With that Dream of Black Mage, eventually you'll want it for that. Yeah, but bosses before that as well, Tenebrous bosses, everything past once you start going into the Tenebrous area, specifically like Gloom and Dark now, like those bosses is also very useful to have because there's just a bunch of shit falling from the sky and it'll seal you, blind you, stun you, so you can make sure that that doesn't happen. Then you can just jump through and then get to safety on the other side.
Okay.
Yep. Other than that, looks good. But yeah, eventually those decent skills are gonna have to go in there because we want to get better potentials. But it's cool for now that you don't have to buy any extra slots and you can make juice, so that's good. Let's see, backups. Oh, we have a hoarder.
I don't know what to hold, so I just hold it all.
A man to my heart. Just hold it all just in case it becomes useful one day. I love it. Yes. So you're familiar with Transfer Hammer and how that works and where to use it, when to use it?
Yes.
Okay, that sounded a little bit of a doubtful yes.
Yes, it's a doubtful yes.
Okay, so yes. So what is your thought process with these pieces? Like, why are you holding what you're holding? Other than
As
I might need it one day. Is there any?
oh well,
Which ones are you 100%
well
convinced of? Like, these I definitely need.
the pink belts are like 140s, and I'm gonna need those at some point to get to. Is it to superior or reinforced? I'm not even sure, to be honest.
Well, you have a reinforced there as well, right? Next to
Yeah, I
the
do have
pink
a
beans.
reinforced.
Yeah, but that one so reinforced is the same level as the pink beans. That's 140. So for Gollux it starts at 120, so 120, 130, 140, 150. The highest is 150 for superior. Yeah, so that's why we get those. But you also have a bunch of pink bean belts, and those are 150.
The 140 ones? Oh, 150s, yeah.
Yeah. So what are those for?
So we'd basically try to get that to like a 21 in theory and then transfer it
What are you going to transfer them to?
to the sub belt.
That's also 150?
Is it 150 or is it 160?
These are... So Zakum belts I'm pretty sure are 150.
Yeah.
And if you transfer hammer, the other item has to be... Well, at most, but at least, it has to be higher level, but at most 5 levels higher. So since the items are the same level, you can't use them for that. So if there was a really cool, some kind of end game level 160 belt in the game, that would be, you know, very rare to get, but would be really cool at high Star Force, then the Zakum belts would come into play immediately, and we would start hoarding those. But since they're the same level, you can't transfer hammer from one to the other. At this point, Zakum belt could be kind of okay early on for boss accessory set, and it has flame advantage, but actually... At this point, because of the pink bean belt prevalence and because of superior, they're actually completely like offside, because yeah, they don't have any purpose there. We want to invest in the pink bean belt because most of that investment with transfer hammer can be safeguarded onto superior, and superior is going to stay with us almost forever until we finally switch into like 8 or 9 set bitch boss with a lucid belt, which is, you know, good luck on all of that. And in between, there's not really anything else there. So the Zakum belts essentially could just go. They have no real value yet. All the other belts that you have there are all 140, except for the those Ramru gloves are also 150, right?
Oh, I could toss those gloves, yeah.
So those so those 150s, that's the same situation as the Zakum ones, yeah. But all the other ones that are 140 could get good Star Force transfer hammer into superior are good for that. The extra add-on with that is if you have a lot of different belts, if you ever, you know, boom your stuff and you want to transfer the trace, right? It has to be the same item. So usually I'll keep whatever belts I get or whatever items for backups that I get until I have a really large amount of one specific type, and then I get rid of all the others, because then they're just inventory clutter. I'm really going to be committing to one type of equip because that's where the traces keep going back into anyway. So if you have like one reinforced that just does nothing, and one what is it, like Sengoku badge, right? Like that doesn't really do anything either by itself. If you really like the item and you want to hold on to it, like be my guest. But for functionality and for saving and for transfer hammer, it can't really do anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the main things that we want to transfer hammer for, right? Like superior gear and until Savior, I would say, is Absolab gear as well. But I think that since for Absolab we typically just only go up to 17 star, the changes in Savior I think are going to make it so that we don't really transfer hammer for Absolab anymore. I think it's going to be more effort than benefit from it. Are you familiar with the changes that are coming?
Not really, no.
They're essentially making
are
it...
you talking about the no booming to 15 stars? Is that? Okay.
Yeah, so up to 15 no boom and no more drop. That's going to make it just way more reliable and just way cheaper. And
no more drop. Wow.
Yeah, and no more drop. Yeah, it's going to be, the price is going to be adjusted a little bit, but it's still going to be cheaper than it is now, and no chance for boom. So, you know, the Absolab dream. So all you need is a 5, 10, 15 event and just safeguard one time from 16 to 17, which you would already do if you were transfer hammering. So you can basically just cut out the middleman and just forget about that stuff. It's mostly just going to be for and for superior as well, right? Like up to 17. You mostly will just use it to get stuff up to 21 and then transfer into 20 stars and then tap however much you're comfortable with, either stand at 20 or go for 21 or go for 22. But all of that be reliant on backups, and that'd be way further into the game, and that's typically not something we do for Absolab, because at that time you want to be working on arcanes, right? So yeah, so the whole backup stuff for Absolabs is pretty much going to be over, I feel, with Savior. It's just, yeah, it's going to be more hassle than is needed.
Okay.
So you can hold the cape. Yeah. Yeah, so Kana Treasure Rings, definitely you want to keep forever, and Dominators as well. Dominators and Kana Treasure Rings are very similar in this way because there's a good chance of having them and holding them as they are. They can be really good items like that. But they also transfer hammer into 2 other things, so you will need basically a near infinite amount of them. You can always put them to work. Even if they all succeed, you'll need at least 3 to 4. So with Kana Treasure, you use them as Kana Treasure. If you have a lot of them, you want to get High Star Force and then use them as that. And then secondary, if you can get another one to the same Star Force, you want to transfer hammer into Superior. That's basically also your fodder for the High Star Force Superior, right? Because otherwise you'd have to buy a whole bunch of Superior backups with Gollux coins, which will take you forever. So this is a more realistic way of getting a High Star Force with very low risk. And then the step after that is to do High Star Force Kana Treasure into another Superior and then into the Slime Ring, unless you get lucky and you can get a lot of Slime Rings by the time that you would do that move, and then maybe you go just on the Slime Ring itself and you can boom a few and it's no big deal. This kind of has to do with, do you just do normal slime boss and then, by yourself, or do you do, because that has a very, very low drop rate, or do you start doing the slime boss, like the Chaos boss, as you slowly go do stronger and stronger things with a party, higher drop rate, but then you have to have some kind of loot rotation going, or maybe you blink for it, whatever. That will really depend, or that decision will influence whether you go on the item itself, or whether you're more likely, I guess, to get a lot of backups, or whether you wait a long time and then maybe only still have 1 or 2, and then the transfer hammer would make more sense. But if you kept up with your dailies, you did a lot of Gollux, then you'll have another coins, and then you can commit the coins to the extra backup to go that way. And then you'll have a... So basically it'll be like guaranteed 20 stars, and then from there on out, however risk-aversive you are will determine how far you tap.
Gotcha. Seems important to get good at Gollux quickly, so I can kind of just start building these things up.
Yeah. Yeah, because those pieces are really good initially. So the pieces are really bad, but then the set bonus is great, and then they're good because you can, with the pity system, to some extent, expect really high Star Force from it as well, and because the only alternative at that point is pitched, which is just super rare, and you'll need to get the high Star Force to be able to overpower the Superior Gollux set already, and you'll need all of the pieces in their set bonus, which it's not just 4 like with Superior, but it's 8 or 9. And they're all coming from bosses that are way harder and lower drop rate, and yeah. So you'll just be holding onto them for a long time. But they will change a lot, right? They might be 17, they might be 18, they might be 19, you might be redoing the pod, they might go up to 20, you might eventually go for 22. Like, it's the same piece, but, it'll see a lot of different stages.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then for the Superior Earring, is it just reinforced earrings? Or?
Yeah. There are technically other earrings that exist, but they're all like a struggle or just way too far out or RNG. So yeah, reinforced makes the most sense. So just hold on to those. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I was saying with the I was saying with the Dominators is that the so they're like similar in the sense that you have like the Transposing, right? You can use them as a Dominator for a bit for the set bonus, maybe as drop or mezzo. You can transpose them for like a secondary damage pendant, and then they also transfer hammer as fodder into the Superior, because you cannot get the into Superior pendant, right? Because you can't get the reinforced pendant, you would have to buy them, so that doesn't make any sense. And this is the actual, well, the only other 140 pendant that you could transfer hammer in is the one that drops from Vihilla and from Saren, so
that's a little far off.
Yeah, that's a little far off, and those drop rates aren't insane either. Although from hard Vihilla, it's like a decent drop rate, but and then after that would be again same thing as like with the slime ring. As with the kind of treasure in the slime ring would be transfer hammering into Superior and then tapping that again and then transfer hammering that into the source of suffering, the pitched pendant. So again, there's a whole bunch of plans for these items, so you can never really have enough of those. Never too many. I see some CRA pieces. There are some cool things you can kind of do with them, but generally you just want to keep them as the emblems because then they take up almost no room,
Yeah,
right?
I'd opened them and thought my thing was gonna boom, but it
Hmm.
didn't, and now they're just there.
Yeah, it's good to just hold them, and then if it booms, you
Yeah.
can always open it in a moment, and that's how you want to. Yeah, again, like the whole fodder system is not as crazy anymore, but in the past there were some other fodders like with shoulders, shoes, gloves that you can just keep them as coins, and then you can buy them in the moment. Maybe even buy them on the day of the event itself. If it booms, buy another one, because sooner or later your whole inventory is just kind of become like this museum of things that could be cool, things I had for a long time and I don't really want to get rid of, things that are, that look cute, things that I need, and we have very limited inventory space. It seems like you have forever, and we just cleared the whole thing up, right? So you do have a lot of space now, but yeah, eventually it is going to fill up. So you have to take some measures. The thing I did want to say though is there is kind of a use for what you did in the sense of, let's say that you are, you get to 17 stars, everything is 17 star, you maybe get to 19 star. I didn't check all your gear yet, but you could already be there, going from 17 to 19 on CR8. That's probably one of the next moves, right? Oh, you're at 18. Yeah, see, there we go. Okay, not too far off. And let's say that the next step you want to do is you want to go for 21 CRA, which is a big jump. The value of, let's say, unique, maybe legendary, low tier, like an OK flame, like 85 flame score, something like that, CRA piece at 19 is decently high. But if you get lucky with a flame open, and if you open up the emblems, you get a tier 7 roll, so you get an eternal quality flame roll. Just a really good flame roll could be anywhere from the half to like 1,000 times the value of what that item already is at that point, as weird as that feels like. And if you are going to commit to it harder in getting crazier high star force and going insane on the flame and min-maxing the potential eventually, if it already comes with a really good flame, it might be the right move to kind of abandon an item that's already 19 stars and legendary potential and just to do that over on another item just because of the value of the flame on it. So it depends on how much time is in between these stages, right? If you only have like 10 to 20 that you can open, then it's not likely at all to happen. But if you're like my characters and you've been doing the dailies for like 2 years and you got like 3,000 pieces of each, there is actually a decent chance, especially if you level Alchemy. You're familiar with the professions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're alchemist and you go to Meister alchemist, so that takes a lot of work, but then you can fuse, and then every fusion for items that have a flame would also come out with an eternal flame quality. So if you would say open 100, that means you can do 2x minus 1, so you could do 199 eternal flame rolls essentially to see if you get something nice. And now you're talking about like, the equivalent of that would be the equivalent of like 600 mil worth of powerful flames roughly. So there is then some value in opening that. So it depends on when you're making that jump, whether that makes any kind of sense or whether it's just like a pipe. You can always open like 10 to 20 and just like Hail Mary, see if anything hits and then just extract the pieces afterwards. But that is something you can consider later on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think earrings is fine to keep. I would just keep the one that you have currently like upgraded and is going towards. Do you have drop and mezzo gear?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you have a full set. Whichever earring is in that set, which one is it? Is it the Diositis? It's already 17, then I think you can get rid of all the earrings.
Other ones? Okay.
Yeah. If one of them is like epic, you could transfer hammer it up with like the Gollux earrings to get it eventually into a reinforced, right? And then that one, if it gets tapped and transfer hammers into the superior, you can do like if it goes into 21 to 20. Or for the first one, transfer hammer into a superior once you get it, because up to 17 is probably not going to be doing much with the savior changes, right? We're probably not going to transfer hammer in there, but then you basically have like an epic potential scroll, right? But yeah, other than that, they can just kind of go. So far, it all makes sense, like what the purpose is and why you hold certain things.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Mechanator, kind of, but since the Mechanator doesn't go past 15, I think it's a big waste of money to even go to 15. Essentially, the money that it costs you to get like 10 to maybe even 11 stars, right, is pretty free. But then 11, you start failing, you start dropping. right? With the changes, might be a little bit more worth, but even then, like 11 to 15 is very expensive for the very little you get for it. And I usually refer to that as basically your entry fee into the 15 plus area, because that's where all of the gains are. Crazy stats, a whole lot of weapon attack, right? That's where all the efficiency and all of the damage is. But if you're not going to be able to go past 15, I wouldn't go to 15 unless your item is like end game and you try to min max on it, like on a heart, like on a one droid heart or something. But I think, yeah, fairy heart only goes up to 8, so it's not even relevant for that one.
Yeah, I was keeping those, the mechanators, because it has the ambition. I just wanted the extra ambition.
That's also, like, in general, that's a good idea if you're trying to get the stats and you're trying to level your charm and all of that, right? If you're trying to work on that. If you have alchemy, you can always use fusing. If you have two of the same item, you wear them and then you fuse them, you create a new item, so you can wear that one again and get the bonus again if you want to do that.
Oh, okay.
Allow you to kind of double dip, or 2x minus 1 kind of situation.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then we have the eye in the face situation. Well, we talked about Commerci and that kind of stuff, right? So I would say similarly to the earrings, like if you have one that you're already using, keep backups in case it booms, and then you have a backup so you don't have to safeguard the whole time. But if you're trying to make a piece specifically for damage, then you probably want to make something that can go Star Force past 15. So the bead mark can do that. It depends on how far you feel like you're going to go. If you get a whole bunch of bead marks, then that's totally fine to use that as like a placeholder for the monocle, right? Because the monocle would basically only start being worth it if you're going past 20, which it's pretty far away still. And if the B marks are decently available to you, getting up to 17 or getting up to 19 should be pretty good. And then the monocle, with the monocle out of the picture, you can put a little bit more pressure on the tattoo, and then if you transpose the Dominator pendant right onto the Sweetwater pendant, and then you won't be like starved for dinero so early because it's pulling you every which direction. So that could be very good early situation, and flame advantage and set bonus with all of the other pieces, so that's fine. But with you basically want to be thinking in your brain, because I'm looking at all the pieces here. When we're looking at the big move from boss accessories and from a drop meso set as like your standard set to really a dedicated damage set, completely separate from drop rate and meso gear set. That's essentially the main stage that you're in now, right? So that's why that Helix, those Helix clears are so important to get going with the coins. What is your current Helix situation, like in terms of coins and drops? Because I don't think you don't have any drops,
most of the
right?
time most of the time I have one of the rings, the superior rings, but I bought it just because I was getting carries. And then now I'm trying to actually do it on my own, so I'm getting less coins because I just keep failing it.
Right, yeah, okay, that's slowing down. Yeah, you're trying to speed it up by being your own boss, and then, yeah, unless you can get those clears in, of course. Yeah, then it's not really speeding up. Let's see, damage, stat. Training. Oh yeah, that's the training of your hyper stats, right? Yeah. Yeah, and then you got your Legion and your mobbing bits separate as well. Yeah. Any other items or backups that you had any questions on? I think we went over everything, right?
Yeah, that was everything.
Oh, I see you already made a Meister ring. Do you have more resources? Are you keeping that up, or did you...
I've been keeping it up. I think I just I'm about to be able to make another one.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So in the beginning, one main character, you're dumping all the resources into that. As you get more resources and you start building up, you want to think with your materials for Meister a little bit more strategically, like more general overview for your entire account, because they're essentially the same as the kind of treasuring, right? Same level, same stats, same purpose. If you, because you can get to the place where you can get like, okay, superior ring, kind of treasure ring, Meister ring, reinforced ring, slam ring. Oh, wait a minute, that's 5, right? Maybe if the Meister ring doesn't have to go in there, you can still get 4 good rings, and later, there's also Oz rings and everything like that, but that's still for a little bit further out. The materials for Meister ring are all transferable, and no equips in this game are tradable or transferable, right? So you can essentially kind of have a transferable ring in those resources. So as you get other characters that are pretty lucky on Chrono Treasure rings early on, you can already know, like, okay, this character doesn't need any Meister rings, right? All of the purposes, all of the transfer hammering, that can all be weighted down onto the Chrono Treasure ring, and that will be fine. And that leaves you with all the materials with your Meister ring for another character that might get very unlucky. And that way you can kind of like balance out to, you know, to each character according to their needs kind of situation.
But I'd have to get that character to Meister crafting as well, or is it?
Yeah, you'd have to get it to Meister and do the whole shebang again. Yeah, Reboot is very very separate. Yeah, I'm already really glad that boss or most of the boss pre-quests are now shared. That's already saved a lot of time for a lot of people.
Yeah, doing Lotus again doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, that was already shared, thank God. Lotus and Damien, those were already shared, yeah, because it's like 4.5 hours for every character. Yeah, imagine that. Scaling up on boss mules never seemed like such a task, yeah. Yeah, okay, that's all I quit. Yeah, so for Legion, I mean, you're still working your way towards 8k. 6k is great because you have the whole grid available, and then you notice how little you can actually fill with 6k. And then that desire for 8k starts because all of the pieces get bigger, and then the jump from 7.5 to 8, you get to put 5 extra characters on, and then essentially you fill 3 full grids all connected, or 3 full blocks on the outer side, right, full connected, and then they have a little bit extra, usually for crit rate for the hero, because they're a little bit lower on that. General looks good. Yeah, if you ever have like you know, boss training, you have a little bit of damage lack. There is always still the normal monster damage on the bottom, right? But yeah, like I said, that's probably closer to 8k before you can start thinking about filling that out, just because getting there in the first place is already like half of your points. I will say though, if you're going to do bonus EXP and critical rate, since they connect again on the bottom, you can get rid of one of the connectors in the middle, right? And you can use those either in bonus EXP or in critical rate to fill up just a little bit of extra there. Because it's not enough to put in the work and get your level characters and unlock your hyperstat points. You have to now actually also work to put them in exactly the right spot to get the value from them. Because the game doesn't give you anything for free like that. But yeah, if you find a way... there isn't really any... The easiest will probably be connecting through the middle, right? Because with the horizontal spots. So if you get rid of the vertical here and then put it in the vertical and bonus EXP again, you can get a little bit of extra bonus EXP without moving too much around. Yeah, as you get more...
Big brain. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, well,
so not through the middle.
I will say I had a setup like this as well, where I also went to the bottom and had a full cross in the middle, and I was like, there's something off here. Like, oh, wait a minute, I'm double connecting on the top, yeah. And then you're just 4 extra stats for free, just in there, yeah. There's learning by running into it myself, no worries. Yeah, other than that, your general quality. Did you see my hyperstats video where I talk about like...
I did, yeah.
Because it talks about like the priority of the stats and everything, right? And it's like, I'm just gonna take full credit for you applying all the stats in good priority here, even if you already knew it before. Yeah, all me, baby. Yeah, no, but that's good general priority. Just enough crit rate, critical damage, IED. Yeah, a little bit of boss if you have left over. I would. Yeah, if you have your 100 crit, definitely prioritize just filling out the critical damage completely, even before you're trying to like limp in a little bit into the boss damage. Really, just prioritize that critical damage. Okay. Because it is that much more that much better scaling early on, and then you'll eventually end up in the boss damage anyway. And then yeah, we talked about the normal monster damage from mobbing. Yeah. Any other Legion questions or mule questions or boss mule questions or anything like that?
I'm just starting my boss mule. Like my Marksman would be my first one. Like, would it be fine to kind of just pause on the nodes for my main and kind of, because I think it seems like it's at a good spot to do at least the content for now. Yeah. And start funneling it into my Marksman. Yeah.
So nodes, any resource that is limited is one where I would be careful. And you have the progression grid, right? You can see kind of like where the damage comes from. Any resource you have slightly more in abundance, I would be more okay with siphoning off into a bossing mule for starters, and then kind of do the same check on a boss mule and see like, okay, what can I do? How fast can I do it? Do I want to speed up, or is this in a good situation? Always like that. And for every resource that you're 100% sharing with others, always be the most careful there. So one thing that for me started the quickest was, you know, back then at least, was like the extra flames that I got, because singular flames and singular cubes from bossing, those are like 99.9% chance to fuck up whatever I already have, and they are like a 20% chance or something of increasing something on a boss mule. So those just indiscriminately, boom, just directly into the boss mules. That one's very
having
easy.
a boss mule, I felt bad to watch them go to waste, but I didn't want to mess up what I already had.
Yeah, exactly. And then even if you're like still working on something, if you mess up one thing a little bit, you know, just because, you know, there's a decent chance of upgrading, as everything is brought up somewhat evenly, you can take like a completely horrible flame on one item for like a week or two until you roll something better. You're not really going to feel that in your damage. But, you know, past a certain point, it'll be like months of daily flames before you even can realistically expect something better. And at that point, you probably don't want to do that. That doesn't make much sense. You can probably get like 200 to 300 flame score on a boss mule just by, you know, getting those boss accessories just all to like 45 or something if they're just sitting on a 10 to 20 flame. That's like free stats that you can get right there. So for nodes, I'd be pretty hesitant, but if you feel like okay with the character, with what it can do now, you can definitely siphon some off. I will say, like, for my project CRA, to just get people to be able to solo CRA, and they can probably, with that same funding now, they can probably also do like HMAG and maybe even like up to like CPAP and Akechi. I did all of that with 100 nodes. So you can get those very far, as long as that's not the only resource you throw at your character as value. If you do a little bit of everything, you can do a little bit of money here and there. There's an event. You know, you get the right equips. A big one that I didn't do for like Project CRA, but is like, can you get access to a guild as well on that character and get some guild skills there? That's a lot of free damage. Well, free, I say free, you know, if you do your culvert and your flag and that kind of stuff. But that's a very low barrier for a lot of return and a lot of money and resources that you can save yourself and use in another place instead. Bossing femmes as well. Maybe Marksman doesn't need it as much, but if you have just random, you know, familiars lying around and you don't really have, you already have some ID and a little bit of drop rate, maybe even some healing on your main character, you can just throw those onto the boss mules as well and get that, you know, unlock that one extra slot, get 15% ID boss femmes in there. That's a lot of value early on as well.
Okay.
So I would try to get those bases covered and then take as many nodes on top of that as you need. Because, yeah, they're just too rare, too valuable, too useful everywhere to just kind of like splurge. Oh, I'm just going to throw 500 nodes at it. And then be like, oh, that was actually too much. And like, well, fuck. You can take them back, but at a severely reduced value. So wouldn't advise to do that, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see so you're liking the Marksman? I guess, yeah, I think Marksman is kind of like the archer hero, kind of, right?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, not super complicated. You get your magic arrow, so you can do some of the harder bosses earlier on because you can just distract them with the magic arrow and they'll just be slashing into it. Yeah, it is really fun. You might, if you really like the Marksman, it's possible you also like the Wind Archer. They also have the dummy.
So, like, for this event, I've been kind of just trying to get rings on what can be future boss mules. And I've been doing Marksman, the Wind Archer, Shadower, Bowman, and then a Night Lord, which I kind of want to be my second main at some point. Okay.
Someone really likes the Explorers, huh?
Yeah, it's just the
Pretty
NX,
much.
I can't.
Anyway, if it works, it works, you know. If you got some level 3 links here as well already, I see you got the Mercedes, the Evan. Was a lot of that like bonking potions and event EXP kind of thing?
Yeah, it was all bonking.
Yeah, I see some the equips, you know, give it away a little bit, like the Zakum weapons at level 210 does feel a certain way about how the character got there. But yeah, as you get more level 200s with the events and everything, the Legion grid should fill up quite nicely, and then, you know, 8k will be the nice little icing on a cake, fill up a grid. That'll be really good value for you. But I see you're using all of your coins, so you're training a lot, using them at the right time. You're familiar with like raid power, how all of that works?
Not entirely sure. I heard that, I think in one of your videos said Star Force has an effect, but I don't necessarily know like what to do to maximize it.
Yeah, so your so you see your raid power underneath your characters. So that is determined by their level and by their star force. Yeah. So if you see those two characters, you see they're roughly same. Level is way more impactful for your outcome than Star Force is. But at a certain point, you know, leveling takes forever, and then just, you know, during an event, slamming some stars on is way cheaper. In general, I would say don't really worry about the Star Force until the character is at least level 200. Past 200, you know, leveling slows down, or you just have no use for it because no level 3 link, no piece getting bigger until 250, right? Doesn't make any sense. And at that point, it might be a good thing to make sure you have, you know, all of those base accessories from like Sakum and Horntail and maybe Pink Bean, you know, those kind of things. And then usually I wait, if it's not already Star Force, wait for like the 1+1 Star Force event, because that's when you get up to 12, basically for half the money. And then it makes sense to just slam a little bit more Star Force. You see, my characters I funded for Project CRA, a lot of them are also at 210, but I'll check what my raid power is because of their Star Force. 210. Yeah, so these are more like somewhere between like 11.5 to 12.5. So, you know, it's not like 50% increase, right? Because the level is still the most important. But if they're all like 1.5 million higher and you have 30 of them, now you have 45 mil extra. So now it's like you have 4.5 extra characters in. Because the total of your Legion raid power, that's how much damage your characters do passively per second to that dragon when you do your dailies, right? The big dragon in the background to the pink bar. So the more damage they do there passively, the faster your passive coins go up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did notice that since like with this event, we have to kind of train the mules a little bit. Like, so I Star Force their Pencilier gear, and I noticed that my rates were going a little faster for the coins.
Yeah. Of course, the lower everything is, the faster you'll notice a difference there. Oh, let me pick up my. Hell yeah, we got some bags. I'm doing some Threads of Fate right now. Have you done any of that already?
Yes, I have a lot of WOPs and EEPs just kind of built
Nice,
up. I think like 140 of each.
Oh yeah, that's probably enough to get you to the point where you'd never have to make the EUPs again, because once you do another bossing, you get those small potions, and those tend to stack up quite nicely, and then you basically only have to craft WOPs anymore. So that's good.
And I'm staring at 400 bags too.
Okay, yeah, that's so 400 bags. So that's like on average 200 more oils in there. I think it's around like half an oil per bag. I think what I found.
Yeah.
So that's that's another 20 crafts, so another 60. It's another 120 hours. Sounds good. Might be a while until you finish that. Okay. Yeah, everything with bossing mules. Anything else that comes to mind? Anything you want to ask there?
No, that was really it. I think just kind of understanding when to give them nodes. I've kind of answered that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Looking at the stat window now, which I usually look at the very beginning, but you know, sometimes we do things a little bit backwards. That looks good. Yeah. Oh yeah, you said with your equips you had it on the glove and then you have it on the shoe, right? Oh, you got a decent combat artist there. Yeah. Because that helps a lot with the... It's a little bit very inflated final damage percentage as a hero, right? You'll notice every other character you play is not going to have nearly that much on there. But yeah, that's when you realize that you shouldn't really be looking at the damage range too much, because it's a weird number to look at. Although, now that I do look at it, that's 15 mil at your level. I don't know if that feels like that's really low, or, you know, I'm probably just kind of spoiled with my 50k stat character. We're at 24. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll just look at everything and see if it makes sense. Arcane power is looking good. Yeah, there's a mobbing setup. And for bossing setup, you essentially just switch out the normal monster damage and the is it attack power and a bonus EXP, and that goes into IED and boss damage, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, looks good. The crit rate is at 11. Is that how much you still need, or is that kind of from like a old setting? And
that was from old setting that I haven't really touched, but everything just hits 100 now.
Yeah. But you can always hover over the number, right, and see if you're over by a lot. If you're at 101 or 102, doesn't make, you know, not very...
Yeah, it's always usually at 100 when I get it, just to make sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's good. Event buff. Oh, do you have any questions about the current event that's going on? Maybe any priorities there, or does that all make sense?
It all makes sense.
I mean,
Just
I
working
wondered.
on
The only
rings.
question was kind of the rings. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm almost done. There's only 5, but I guess kind of how to spread out the bonks. I don't know if it's worth trying to get a level 3 link, or what I've been doing so far, just kind of spreading them out through all the 140s and kind of getting them to 150, 160.
Yeah, if you're rushing, towards 8K, it's basically, just make a whole. You don't need everything exactly at 200, right? Because you have a few characters over. You're getting some 210s. I think it's totally fine to focus on. So here's basically the thing. So if you're jumping from 6 to 8, like you're deciding to make that move, I think it totally makes sense to go back to like the Lynx and Legion grid, right? And basically just start back from the top, and then work your way to 210 first with the ones that have like good level 3 links, and then to 200 with the characters that have good, what is it, double S Legion blocks, and then everything that's not going to be in that pack to just like bonk it up to, like in the 170s or something, like a low 170, something like that, and that'll probably be pretty close to getting you to 8K. Some people are like, I have to get them all to 200, that's something I want. I would just want to have them all. It depends on if you have any personal preference in that sense. The thing with the 210s is, though, like if you get it to 200 and then bonking past that, you'd have to get those special up potions, right? Where you have like the selector. But, maybe you want to use that for free levels on a bossing mule. I don't know. Then you have to start making those decisions again. And the bonking potions you can use past 200 to get a little bit of EXP. So it's, it's something. But you can't do like the dolphin bonk stuff like this. Like when it's going in, you can't use that on characters 200 or above. So then you kind of have to do it on sub 200s. Well, eventually you're going to have such a big legion, you're going to get to a point where some events just, you can't really get any value out of it anymore. Like the whole bonking system for me is like, if it's potions, cool, I can get like half a level maybe on level 210. But yeah, other than that, that whole event is just, I can't really do anything with it anymore.
Yeah.
Part of it is nice, so you don't have to worry, but the other part is like, damn, those easy gains. It would have been cool to tap into that. I don't know if that answers your question adequately.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Link skills. Yeah, bossing. You're getting your ID, getting your crit still. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the one thing, kind of moving past it a little bit, but the last thing would be like your inner ability. Do you have any kind of idea and plan around that?
I know I'm supposed to get like +1 attack, and then crit rate is my second one. And I think some boss damage, but because I just saw the hero Discord, but I've kept it at 20% miso, just because I figured I'm gonna be training for so long.
Yep.
The extra miso would be pretty helpful.
Yep. Yeah, you get, for most people, whatever is your best in slot, your very close second best in slot is 20% miso top, just to be making your money. Essentially, the big approach, and I've got this under exclamation mark inner ability as well, but the big approach is like, get a decent early to mid game inner ability. Usually, what I refer to it as just like a training inner ability, and then once you start getting usually past 250, so usually around like the 260 level 260ish area, where 260 265 you're going to be leveling less. You're going to be grinding less as a total percentage of what you're doing, because a lot of bossing probably, and a way bigger chunk of your money is going to come from like static income and from bossing mules. So your main character is that line of inner ability at that point is going to become pretty costly to have, and the efficiency is going to go down. But the other thing that coincides with that is you also need a long time to build up a lot of honor EXP. So I think that's around the good time where you want to switching from a training inner ability to either somewhat of a hybrid one, essentially meaning that you leave one unique line out and to be like drop or meso. Meso if you're still going to be grinding out to like, if you want to go to level 300, or drop rate if you are going to be doing a lot of bosses and you want to have a higher chance of getting pitch drops, essentially. And then the other line, hopefully unique and legendary line, specifically cater towards damage output and to bossing. Usually I find that it's a good idea to have like at least 1.5 million honor to decide to make that big jump. Because it's the initial investment is a lot of circulators, right? So you're going to want to circulate until you hit a high priority unique line, because then circulator will give you will give you the highest percentage that it can. So for hero, it can be It can be crit rate, but you know, depending on how you're playing, it could also be that drop rate for the pitched. It could be boss damage, and it could be damage to debuff. So you have quite some outs there that are possible. The reason I say crit rate is it could be because if your Legion keeps growing and growing and growing, eventually you do get access to enough critical rate because of access in the hyperstats and the link skills as well, that you can still get to 100% without needing it in your inner ability. But if you do end up getting it, of course you take it, because now that means you can get a line out of your link skills, you know, when you do get to that same point, and then you can get extra damage from a link skill slot that could rival or even supersede what an inner ability line could give you at that point. But yeah, that attack speed. So usually my main advice is to go early on is to go for one-handed weapon, because they have one rank of attack speed more, and then you can freely go into that meso obtain, and you're still max attack speed, so you can get used to the regular cadence and the regular attack intervals and going out through the game and all that stuff, and not have to take a step back in your income whatsoever. And then once you are dedicating to maybe Abzo, depending on how fast you do that, but probably towards Arcane, then go for that two-handed, and then switch from that, you know, training to that bossing inner ability, and then make that step and go for that attack speed +1, essentially. That's kind of like how I feel like those things kind of, you know, move together and where they kind of converge in the progression.
Gotcha. Well, actually, if it's talking about weapon, I have a two-handed the axe, and it's just the fake app. So
yeah, fake Abzo. Yeah, I saw that. Well, at least you picked the two-handed axe, so we know you're a man of good taste. So yeah, that's
I guess we can talk about when we get to equips, but that was I was just wondering. I guess it could be a good time to switch to the one-handed if I felt like getting a regular app. So
yeah, that's something you could do. I use the one-handed axe as Abzo on my hero as well. Yeah, because you know it looks different, but the main thing on the side is that I invested into a shield for it because I didn't know if I was ever going to go arcane, and then when I did decide to go arcane and two-handed, then I had to remake a secondary. But it's also totally fine to just use the one-handed and use the standard secondary. It'll be a little bit weaker than a shield, but it's going to be way cheaper than making two of them and then star forcing another one and all of that min-maxing, right?
okay, I was hesitant to go to one-handed because I thought I needed to get a shield.
Yeah, you know, the shield gives you more damage, but you know you can take a little bit of a step back in terms of total damage and be okay with like a one-handed real Absol weapon, and yeah, and then just use your standard, what is it, Princess Knows Metal, just use that, and then know that you're working towards Lucid and then eventually Hard Lucid, and then one of the first upgrades you want to make there, especially if you're more casual, you're not as extreme in like the playtime, is that you're probably only going to move from normal to Hard Lucid when you're close to or even able to buy the arcane weapon with all of the drops from the normal Lucid runs, and then you know that weapon is going to get replaced fully anyway. You know, no transfer hammer, 160 to 200 doesn't work, so that value is going to get lost there anyway, and then you can settle back into that secondary that you would have had in the first place.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess we kind of segued into the equips that way. Symbols are looking good. I look at the colors of the potential, that's looking good. The heart. When it comes to like upgrading equips and everything, do you have some general questions there? Do you feel like you have a decent grasp on when certain things should be equipped? Because it looks pretty good. Looks like someone who's listened to a lot of my progression sessions and taken it to heart.
Yeah, I'm just kind of don't have like a sense of direction of what to upgrade. I know 5, 10, 15 coming up, but I just don't feel like I don't have a sense of direction of where to go. I'm just kind of saving, not that much because I don't have much like a big source of income, but that's all I've been doing.
You've got the full. Oh yeah, I got some double lines here. So your drop and meso set is it 5-line drop, 5-line meso?
I think so, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5 here, yep, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh yeah, and then these two. Yeah. 1, 2. Wait, double check my work. 1, 2, 3. Wait, hang on, I'm missing like a. Oh, you're using one pendant less because of the spirit pendant, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're still 5 and 4, but because you have a double line, you can get it on 8 pieces instead of the usual 9. Because of the Okay. This is good. Yeah, and then I mean, as far as the glove potential goes, you know, I know it's not double crit damage, but this is probably like the very closest thing you can get for way less money. So you get a free matrix slot, and you get some stat, and you get your critical damage. I think that is exactly the same potential that I had on my hero for, you know, until I switched to arcane and went for double critical damage. So that is absolutely great. Yeah, I guess some of these. So when you're flaming, if you get a flame now, where do you use it? Do you use it on your main? Do you use it on a boss mule?
So I just got, like, I think this week got to the point where I was kind of throwing the red ones on a boss mule because the CRA flames look pretty solid. And I just don't want to roll them away. And the Abso flames, I think they're like in the 60s, 70s. So I was hesitant to touch those.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of throwing them to my Marksman.
Okay. Yeah, it could very well be because I don't see all the stats of the Marksman. The Marksman is undoubtedly going to get more value out of them at this moment, right? Unless it's rolling around with some like 100+ flame score boss accessories, which it probably isn't. But you can probably put the bar a little bit higher once you're done with whatever you're working on the Marksman. A little bit higher on the Abs Lab right now, because you are going to be holding on to that like well into, you know, killing. This is like the hard Lucid gear already, right? So you're not going to go further into Star Force. You might go a little bit more on the potential for the things that are still unique. But so the flame needs to do a little bit more push, because other than that, the only thing that's really going to get a lot stronger than what you have now is switching to the Superior Gollux set, right? Getting Sweetwater accessories or Bead Mark, whatever you choose to do there. Probably up to... the Superior stuff is probably going to be at 17. Those accessories might go up to 19 because, you know, easier backups and you're going on the item itself, not transfer hammer, so you can take a bit more risk on the pieces. And the CRA is probably going to go up to 19. And that's going to have to take you to hard Lucid clear, right? So there's going to be a little bit disproportionately more pressure on the other ways of upgrading on the Abzo, because you don't want to have to push the Star Force past 17 and then potentially boom and have to redo the whole thing again. You know, again, because of no boom and no drop up to 15, it might be a little bit easier then to maybe go 18 or 19 on Abzo and take a little bit of pressure off of the other pieces. But the way that the meta stands now, 17 is usually fine and is doable. But because of that, you're going to hold them for longer, so you do get more mileage out of your flames if you do decide to go a bit harder there.
What flames do you aim for on the Abso?
So usually just a little around the same or a little bit higher than the CRA. So if your CRA is like in the mid 80s, then for Abzo, like, you know, like also around there, or like low 90s, something like that.
Okay.
Yep. So it is pretty close, but you know, if it's like 20 stat on 3 pieces, 60 extra stat, you have 300%, or 300, something like that, 300 to 400% stat, and you know, triples to quadruples. So it does add up together. Well, WSE is of course very important. That's why we're talking about it first. But yeah, we talked about the weapon already, right? And then your secondary talked about that in connection to that. They all have 3 lines that all do something. I like that. So that's definitely a very good start. Out of all 3 of the pieces, I mean, your weapon is going to get replaced first, right? So whatever potential comes on there, that is going to determine what you're going to be looking for in the other pieces. So until you get a weapon and you get it rolled, I wouldn't touch any of the other pieces. But I think out of these 2, which ones would you think is like the closest to where you want it, and is like the least likely that you would reroll? Between the emblem and
secondary?
Yeah, by far, right? Because the emblem rolls cheaper, and the IED, you know, has more replacements, has more outs to replace, so that is more likely to end up rolling something better than what you have right now. Yeah, okay. Again, you passed the test. Good job. So emblem could be definitely a re-roll, probably around a time where you're like in between. You have like 19 CRA, everything else is 17. You've got like full superior. The whole set switch happened, and you're kind of waiting for the next 5, 10, 15 big event to like tap CRA to 21, maybe get some fodder to 21 to transfer into superior, into other things to get into 20 star. if you're in that like waiting period, then it might be a good idea to like redo the emblem, you know, after the weapon's been done and all of that, and like chase some more attack lines on there. If you get ID and 2 lines of attack, that would also be probably a good keep at that point, but probably going to be chasing that 21% attack there. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to potentialing, other than that, it's going to come down to the Helix and just getting to superior ASAP, right? And really looking at like which set. So the kind of treasure now is Mezzo and 2-line strength, which is fine, but it's also already 18. So if possible, you want to commit that to damage gear. So if you want to work on another what's it called, like the event ring, or you know, maybe another kind of treasure, whatever you have available, as another replacement mezzo ring. So this one could be dedicated to strength for more than 15, right? So maybe 24, 27%. Then that could be already one big part together with your superior Gollux, and already be a solid foundation for your damage set. And then really, you know, you're working on Meister already, so definitely look in that direction. If you want to buy Reinforced, probably after you also buy the Pendant, right? So that'll be a little bit longer. So if you do end up getting your hands on a slime ring before that, you can use that one, and then basically it means you don't have to buy the Reinforced ring too soon. You can just settle on those 4 for now. But if you're doing Meister ring, always be aware that there's a pretty big upfront investment before it starts giving you any kind of value, because you essentially need to get it to 18 before it even overpowers something like a Reboot Awake ring, right? Like one of those events, just because of their base stats. So it is also fine to be basically sitting on an event ring for quite a while, and then the next replacement might be a 20 or a 21 ring, either transfer hammered or not, before this one gets switched over. They're very good, like cheap placeholder rings as a result, because they have such insane base stats. Yeah, Cup's looking good. Cup would be like to flame after the Abso is a little bit higher and the C Ray is already good. It can be a little bit under that, because you're going to keep that until you get the drop from Hard Will for the book, which could take forever. So we take, essentially we go pretty hard on the Cup, and it's very easy to get a backup, so you can always, you know, flame the other one, or you can do the same again with Alchemy, right? Like the drop is a tier 7 roll,
Yeah.
and if you
I've been fusing it, hopefully.
yeah. But if you don't have a pretty high rank in Alchemy, so I think you have to be Craftsman for the fusion to be the same quality as a powerful flame, and then Meister for the fusion to be the same quality as an eternal flame. So if you're level 10 or lower, it's like a quality lower than a powerful flame. So it's really a Hail Mary at that point to really roll something nice. It's possible, but it's very unlikely at that point.
So get it to Master Craft.
Yeah, if that's something you want to rely on for like the long term, Master Craftsman or Meister. For Meister, does also give you the access to making like the boss rush potions and that kind of stuff, which you probably have a lot of materials for if you've been doing Threads of Fate. And then you can use those to, you know, get some extra damage on your bossing mules and stuff like that. You make those last for 40 minutes and give you 20% boss damage. And until you start killing the higher level bosses that drop those white and red potions that last 2 hours, until that point, it gives you a nice little thing as well to carry you over, just so you get a little bit more value. You can also use Meister Alchemist to craft 20 slot coin purses if you want to for characters. So, you know, if you want to not spend a lot of money on expanding their etc. inventory and that kind of stuff. And you can make material bags, but the ones that you can buy from the storage or from the regular merchant now are way better, way more room in that, so that's not really a value of alchemy anymore. Yeah, we got some 18s going. Yeah, you're slowly walking it up 1 star at a time on the pieces that don't get transferred, so that's good. You're standing on good unique potential if they have it, not tearing up just because you can. That's all looking good. Yeah, you're just kind of time gated by Gollux now, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be the main thing. But yeah, Commerci plus Gollux, you're working on that, and then once you have all the pieces, slam them all together. You can definitely work on transposing a Dominator, right? Get a Dominator to 16. You could definitely do that during the 5, 10, 15, and then start trying to transpose it into the Sweetwater Pendant. Use that as your as a damage pendant. That could be another piece that's like waiting for the superior set to complete. Yeah, other than that, it's going to be practicing Superior Gollux, sorry, Helix, and getting those Superior Gollux drops. How do you feel like your hands are? You feel like you have good control over your hero?
For the most part, I feel like once I go into the boss, die 1 or 2 times, I start to get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you mean like die out 1 or 2 times so that you really just
Yeah.
yeah. It could be from an outsider's perspective very frustrating, and someone would be like yelling at their computer, but sometimes it's also just fun to have something not be easy the first time around. It adds so much more value to eventually getting it. And if it works first time, it could be cool, but it's also that feeling is gone really quickly. But if you fail a whole bunch of times and you progressively get better and then you finally hit it, that feeling could stay with you forever. Depending on
like usually when I'm practicing, like right now I'm practicing a Lucid, just kind of seeing the bar slowly progresses. Like before I die out, it gets to a lower percentage every time. Like hopefully I'll get to P2 maybe today or tomorrow, and then work through that.
Yep. Are you doing easy Lucid as practice for the mechanics and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, normal is very close to it. It basically just has double the HP, and then hard is essentially the same. Just the things hit you harder. So if you get used to dodging and to the patterns and to the timings, your survivability on the higher levels will be significantly better. And but of course, hard Lucid has that third phase where you need to just have enough burst with the team together, communicate well in your timings, and prep all your bursts and just nuke it down in those 40 seconds. But other than that, the boss fight changes very, very little. So yeah, it's good that you're...
Yeah, I figured once I cleared Lucid, I can go in with my guild and not die, and then normal won't be too terrible.
Not be an anchor weighing everyone down.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm dead again, guys. Look at me. Who's floating now? Yeah. Because when you look at a new boss fight and you look at someone who's pretty inexperienced, you can literally die to everything. Like just everything out there is just trying to get you, and it's kind of a miracle how good certain people are at this game. It's just bobbing and weaving through everything, somehow never getting hit, because death is it's like Australia out there, you know, like everything's just trying to kill you.
It could get discouraging, see how quickly people clear bosses, and then I'm out here struggling. But I just have to realize that they've been practicing, or they've been going to get this boss for weeks and weeks, if not months. Years.
A few years. The very first few clears, they were exactly like you. They probably just died out a whole bunch of times as well.
Yeah.
We all, some people are like, "Oh, you're 9.3k Legion." It's like, well, I started at 0, just like, well, I guess technically I didn't start at 0 because we had the card system before, which was like a really scuffed version of just member bonuses. So when Legion came out, I immediately already had a bunch of characters, but we all had to start. Everyone's account started at nothing, right? So everyone at their own pace. Okay, is there any equip or anything, any kind of progression path on any piece that you're not clear on, or you don't know, you foresee some difficulties there?
Just for the CRAs, would you recommend just kind of going up to, you said maybe 19, and would you do 19 all of them, or would you rush 1 to 21?
Yeah, I would just do 19 all, and then from 19 typically we jump up to 20, but typically up to 21, but you can also just do 1 to 20 and then do the next one. The thing is just that 20 to 21 is cheaper and more likely than 19 to 20 is, because you can't drop at 20. So typically, once you're everything at 19, the next jump is to 21, which is a bit more expensive, and then people tend to do it one at a time, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, unless they, do something crazy in New Age, like they change the 5, 10, 15 events to, 12, 15, 18 events or something like that, right? Because 10, 15 feels a little weird now. Like no boom, no drop up to 15, and 15 to 16 is the best part of that event. It feels like that event is now kind of outclassed, outscaled a little bit.
15, 20, 25 coming soon.
Yeah, well, yeah, or they do the Star Forcing, the max Star Force up to 30 or something, and then, a whole lot of can of worms gets open. That's very possible, but that's why it's a good idea to just look at New Age, look at new updates, trying to keep up to date, see where the game is going in general, just so you know if there's anything crazy you need to keep an eye out on. Because as you go through the game, every single big upgrade that you want to make is just going to be a longer project, and it's like, oh, this is going to take like 2 to 3 months. Well, in 4 months this thing happens, so then you might have to balance things out a little bit in priorities. But I'll be there to point people at the important things, I guess, as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an event, I just usually go to your channel and you explain it pretty well.
Okay, appreciate that. Yep. Little plug there. Make sure you check all the new updates, chat. Okay, yeah, but we're around our hour and a half mark. So, if do you have any last questions? Anything you want to mention?
Nothing major, but just when you had the one-handed weapon on your hero, did you feel like your rates went up? Because I'm still going. I don't have a vac pet yet, so it kind of just is discouraging seeing my rates compared to ones with a vac pet.
How are you on the map clear? Do you feel like you can clear the training maps quite well before the monsters respawn?
Yeah.
I was in Celis for a bit, but I didn't train past 250. My hero stopped at 250. So are you training in? You're in Celis still right now?
I'm LH6 right now.
Okay.
Doing LH6.
Oh, okay. Moonbridge, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to say because I was still in the totem era for all of my hero.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably did. You catch like the tail end of totems? But yeah, that was just the maps that we went to. Your expected rates, how active the training was, and everything was just very, very different. So it's hard to tell for me. As long as you feel like you can clear the full map within a rotation, your rates can only really get better in terms of EXP by just stacking more sources, and in terms of like money, if you feel like a lot of money is getting wasted, like. Yeah, actually like a vac pet, because you don't want to, be walking into the corners of the maps too much, because then your monster kills and then your EXP gets eaten up. I do feel like in Limina it might be a bit more relaxed, but I think most of the Limina mechs are a little bit smaller, so might be more straightforward, more like you can just watch anime and TV shows on the side kind of thing. But I don't know if the insane rates are quite there. There are some maps where if the class fits well and can do full map clear, you can get a whole lot of games. But yeah, for my hero, I don't have the experience necessarily that I think you're asking for. But someone sees the video in the comments section, wants to reply, or maybe this could be a good question as well for the hero Discord, right? There probably is at least one person in there who's been through a similar situation.
Awesome, sounds good.
Okay, well yeah. Thanks for being a good student, because I can definitely see that some things have stuck. So that's really cool to see. And yeah, I think you'll do fine. Definitely on the right track. Just get lucky on those superior Gollux drops and beat that guy up real quick, and then you can start on your next more challenging chapter. Hopefully that's not just endless RNG waiting for drops, because that would be pitched. Yeah. So you in between, you do have the arcane area where you can actually buy them and work on the upgrades, but hopefully you get the boxes and don't have to do all of that either. Welcome to MapleStory.
Don't want to think about that RNG yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, that's a problem for another time. But yeah, best luck with everything, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you around.
Awesome, appreciate the advice. I got a little bit more of a track on going to
all right.
follow now.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and well, see you another time.
Have a good one.
Yep, bye. All right, cool. If you, like this person, would like to win one of these sessions for free, we're doing the YouTube thing for free. Make sure you leave a comment with your Discord name and saying in the comment that you would like to win a free session. Exactly, but just make it apparent, okay? If it's just like a random comment, I'm not going to put your name in the hat, and you will not get drawn. But for the people who do, 2 people will get drawn at the end of the month, which is in under 10 days. 8, 7, whatever. Just a little bit more than a week, weekish, and those 2 people will win free sessions. So if you feel like you want to win, make sure to leave that comment. If you don't want to wait, make sure you check !MarkSman Coaching over at the Twitch chat, twitch.tv/Scardor, or you check the description of the video, because there the information is also available in the bit.ly link. Yes. I'm going to be doing a lot of these, so you're going to see a lot of these uploaded, because there was currently, we did one yesterday, we did one today. I think there's 3 or 4 more that I want to squeeze in this week as well, so it's going to be almost every day one, so you're getting a lot of progression session content. If this was helpful for you, I'm glad. If you have additional questions or comments, leave them in the section below, because I'm always updating my knowledge on all classes as well. Luckily, this was a hero. I play it myself, so I know a little bit more about this than some other classes. If you're worried about the discords, class discords, and where those are, you can go into Twitch chat and check !class discords. And that's where you can also find all of these resources and all of the other ones that I pull up in all of these progression sessions. Those are all freely available for everyone in my online and offline chat over at Twitch. So don't be shy and come on down. And maybe you could be live in the audience for one of the next sessions, or just when I'm streaming. I stream over there every day, and I gladly have you over there. So I'll see you on Twitch, or just I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you then.